hours engaged by quarter. Oh my Lord. What we will see here shortly is that they make a lot of money. It took them 16 years to get here. 16 years. Almost $1.25 billion in bookings in the first 9 months. Almost $600 million so far in 2020 on revenue. And you're doing less than 10% in sales and marketing. I mean, I love that.
So if you don't know what Roblox is, well, you probably should. It was started in 2004, about 16 years ago now. And I mean, it was kind of slowly chugging along for many years. It's kind of that metaverse of video games. Anyone has seen Ready Player One, right? Where you have a character and that character can go into a bunch of different worlds. That's Roblox. Remember that bad guy in the movie Ready Player One who could, whose plan was to like show you ads and monetize the hell out of the game. Well, Roblox has the killer app of monetization, which is called you can purchase in-game money with real world money. And that is effectively how Roblox makes money. What we will see here shortly is that they make a lot of money. And rightly so, frankly. So again, it was slowly building for many, many years. And then in the past handful of years, the business has just taken off. Here or there, a few of their overarching stats here. 31 million daily active users, 22 billion hours engaged. So that's